How do you see this one going down? Obviously, it's back at home. It's at Tottenham Hotspur. So how are you feeling for it?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very interesting test because it's probably the first team we're going to play this season where it's going to be a bit of a hybrid. So they'll probably sit deep at points, but they're not going to be completely sat behind the ball for the entire game. They're a brave team under Iraola. Bournemouth, they have some very, very dangerous players. Semenyo obviously being the main one, Justin Cliver as well. I know their defence is probably a lot weaker this season than it was last year with losing Zaviani, Huijsen and Kirkez. Obviously, three very, very good players. So I feel like there's a real opportunity for us here at home to go into the international break, 9 points out of 9. Really, really good goal difference, and just with a wave of momentum. It's almost a bit annoying that if we do win against Bournemouth, that it's going to get halted while players go away and play for their countries. But yeah, it'd be a really, really positive start. And I do think, having watched, obviously, the Liverpool game last weekend against Bournemouth, they showed that on the transition, on the counter-attack, they are incredibly dangerous. So that's a big thing we're going to have to be aware of. But I think that's where someone like João Palhinha will come in and be a huge asset against a team like Bournemouth, breaking up those counter-attacks. And then, on the other hand, I don't think they looked great against Wolves at the weekend, a Wolves team who largely played with 10 men for the majority of the game. So, yeah, I think they're not as dangerous. I might regret saying this. They're not as dangerous as they were last season from what I've watched so far this year. Having said that, like, you know how the Premier League works these days. Anyone can beat anyone. And I'm scarred from how bad our home record was still last season. So, I think the recipe to having a good team and a very early indication of how good your season's going to go is how strong your home form is. And I want to get back to that expectation and feeling that we should be winning the majority of our home games, which I'm hoping is the case, obviously, as a Spurs fan. But it'll still be a tough match. It'll be a tougher test than Bournemouth, and a different team to play against, I guess, than City, in terms of how we'll set up and shape-wise. So it'll be an intriguing watch, but I feel positive about it overall.
I think I'm the same. And obviously, Billy, I'm not going to ask you to kind of predict how we're going to line up because we had this joke last week and we have no idea. But what do you kind of hope to see? Is it kind of the same of what Mitch has said? They're going to be more counter-attacking Bournemouth, but hopefully with Palhinha in there and maybe that midfield three we'll see again, we should be all right.
I think it's going to be a really interesting tactical battle, to be honest, because we're up against another one of the sort of, quite a like-for-like Thomas Frank, and that he could, just as easily change formation as Thomas Frank could play very direct like Thomas Frank. I think it's going to be quite a difficult game, to be completely honest with you. And I think if we win, it'll be a massive win because I thought they looked excellent against Liverpool. And bear in mind they've lost 3 of their 4, or even 4 of their 5, their back 5 this summer. They looked really good. They looked really good at the weekend as well. Semenyo's on fire. You've got Evan Nilsson up front who's decent. I don't think it's going to be an easy game at all. We played them twice last season, and they battered us both times. In terms of the play, anyway. They're a really difficult side, I think. So I'm expecting Thomas Frank to come up with something a bit different. I think it'll be. It wouldn't surprise me if we see Palhinha maybe drop out and Bergvall start maybe, a bit like he did against Burnley. I think we'll have a lot more of the ball than we did against Man City in this game. But I think it's going to be a really interesting tactical battle from 2 really modern coaches that kind of, it's going to be almost like a chess match, I think. It'll be a much different game than we've seen in the last 2 Premier League games. But if we do win, which I think we will, that's a brilliant start going into the international break. But I certainly don't think it's a game that I'm going to look at and think, oh, that's an easy win. I think it's going to be a real tactical battle for us.
Definitely. I mean, Jim, are you kind of on the same sort of vibe, as in it's going to be a tactical one to kind of look out for the neutral? But for those that are watching it and that are fans, it might be a bit, not awkward to watch, but it might be a slight hard one.
Yeah, it's one of those where I think like we're beating Man City, and now you look at the fixture list and you go like, is there anyone we can't beat? And you get to that dangerous level of confidence where you suddenly have a realization that, oh, wait a second, we were playing Premier League teams who are really bloody good. And as soon as you're linked to their star player, you get very excited by them. And they're better than I think Burnley are, that by quite a distance that we faced at the start of the season. Like, it's one of those games that we should win in a normal season, but you expect in a season where Spurs are, a top 6 side, that they win 7 out of 10 of their home games. And I feel like this season, where this one of those games we should win. But for me, I'm trying to like think more kind of like what I want to see more than anything is the consistency on building on the performances. If we were not to beat them, but we still saw those defensive let's just say we start Berry, Val and Gray, because there's a bigger picture here that we have to keep giving those players minutes if we ever want them to be good enough to start for Spurs. And we've got to juggle the fact Pauline is going to go next season. And we've got to somehow prepare for that. And because of that, one of those young players makes a mistake that leads it to being a draw instead of a win. I'm not going to be fuming. I'm not going to blame Frank. I'm going to go, he's made the right call and he's made a tough call and it hasn't worked out. But so I'm more looking at kind of like the performance of the team and looking at individual level. But I think we should win that. And I imagine it's going to be closer than people think. And like when we played Burnley, I think there was, in a normal world, play that 10 times, you concede 1 goal in quite a few of those times. But you win it also most of those times as well. And I think I still think we'll win, but it'll be by a single goal. And it'll be a bit like whoa, okay, we just smashed Man City. I thought we were going to win that 5-0. Well, if you look at most Premier League weekends, look at most of them on the fixture list, vast majority of games are defined by 1 goal. The vast majority of games are not defined by more than 2 goals. But the best teams have that bit of magic, a bit of spark just to limp through at the last hour. And I think we will. And I think we'll be okay. And I think there'll be moments where you go, damn, that's where you really need a 10, isn't it? That number 10 would have unpicked that lock there. And we'll have those kind of moments, but we'll still scrape through and be okay. And look, it would be the first win before international break since 2023. So that would be lovely.
That would be nice. And I've been starting a new thing on the show, and we'll do it quickly. I just want to get your match scoreline prediction. So, Mitch, come to you first. What do you predict the score to be?
I'm going to go for a fairly tightly contested 2-1 win to Tottenham.
Nice. Billy?
I'm going to go another Thomas Frank clean sheet. I'm going to go 1-0 Tottenham.
Very nice. And Jim?
Yeah, I'll go 1-0 Spurs.
Nice. Lovely stuff. Well, hopefully it is a win that we can hopefully talk about next week on Hollie Hotspurs Live.